in life. You will win as you move towards your goals. And yet, let's be intellectually honest, you might not even like what you're doing at the end of the experiment. That's okay. You might not even like it, but you've learned enough to know that this is something that you don't want to do.
I've built many startups, most of them have failed, so Bitcoin is exactly the place that I like to be.
We're going to end it right there. What's up, guys? I hope you're having a wonderful day today. And today, I would love to talk with you guys about the audience of zero. The audience of zero. You see, last night I had an awesome opportunity to hang out with one of my best friends, and we went out to the sauna. As you guys well know, I love going out to the sauna. It's a great place to just rip off all your skin, make sure that you shed all the dead weight you possibly can, and make sure that you burn it all off with fire. And you know what I mean. Burning off all the day's grime, all the day's ickiness, all the bullshit in life. Also, one of the great things about going to the sauna with a friend is that this friend, being that you guys are close and you don't mind seeing each other naked, but what's great about it is he can literally scrub my entire body down, get all the dead skin cells, all the places I can't reach on my back and my shoulders and all that stuff. And man, I tell you, I slept last night on fire, and it's a good fire. Like your skin is trying to heal. It's trying to grow back the first layer of skin. But one of the conversations that we had, and was really, really awesome, was this idea of starting over. Or maybe not necessarily the idea of starting over, but starting something new. And one of the things that popped into my mind during this conversation was this idea of the audience of zero. The audience of zero. I think it's easy for us, and certainly easy for me, it's easy for me to lose perspective when it comes to this idea of the audience of zero, especially in the context of starting something new or starting some new hustle, some new grind, some new project, even a new job, a new occupation of sorts. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are an individual that has an idea and no one else around you can support that, you must begin with the audience of zero. And that, I think, is a scary thought for many people. For me, it's something that I quickly breezed through, but the conversations that we had last night really brought this home to me about this really powerful fear that people have when it comes to beginning. No one's listening to me. No one's watching me. No one knows that I exist. And I think this even pulls from a deeper need, a deeper, need that we have psychologically, of a need to feel validated, a need to feel like we actually exist, a need to feel like we're belonging to some group or some culture or some community of sorts. But I think we have to get over that. I think we have to get over this idea that people want to listen to you on day one. They don't know you exist. And so you must persevere with an audience of zero. Part of the conversations that we had around this idea and his ideas of starting anew or starting again is I simply said this, and I think this is important. I wrote this down. I told him, I said, you attract people based on the value you bring, and the connection that people feel to your message. Now, it doesn't have to be a message on YouTube or podcast or it could be a marketing message if you're in services, or it could be your sales message, or it could be the marketing message of what value you can provide to people. But let's not be under any illusion here. We are now in the digital age, and if you are an entrepreneur, then part and parcel of your job is to spam, not in a negative way, but spam. Get your voice out there. Get your message out there so people can connect. But at the end of the day, don't miss this. You attract people. based on the value that you bring and the connection that they feel with the message. Now, I can give you guys many, many examples of experiments and projects that I've done where my audience of 0 ended up becoming an audience of 15, an audience of 20, an audience of 100. And that right there pretty much was the cap. No one else above 100, and you say, well, Peter, how long did you do it for? Years. I've done it for years. That the audience is small. And so one of the questions you have to ask yourself is if you're stuck growing this audience of 0 to an audience of 1, an audience of 2, an audience of 10, 15, 20, 50, whatever, is that you have to continue to experiment through this. If no one is listening now, stay the course. Stay disciplined. Keep working towards your goals. One thing that we ended up talking about here when it comes to goals is that your goals at the end of the day really don't care how you feel. They never care about your feel. You set this goal. It's stamped. Maybe it's stamped in the ether that this is a goal that you had and you're starting over with 0 and you have an audience of 0. And the days that you're not getting the validation, the days that you're not getting the feedback you want, those are the days that you want to quit. But there's one rule. There really is one rule when you're beginning anything in life, a new project, a new hustle, a new career, a new job. The key idea, the one rule here is don't stop. Don't quit. Don't abort. Don't ever stop. You see, one of the things that I talk a lot about when it comes to beginning any type of project or any type of new hustle is you got to do it long enough. You have to do it long enough to learn what the aesthetics and nuances are of that for your own sanity, for your own edification, for your own education. I always like to say that you should go at least 90 days. 90 days is enough of a time, and I've spoken about this before, but I think it's important to remind you guys that doing any type of new project for 90 days is an awesome time box. It's an awesome time box to start with. And let me tell you simply why. The reason I have chosen 90 days for many, many, many years of my life, whenever I start any type of side hustle or new project or new idea or new anything, is 90 days gives me two distinct outcomes. Number one, at the 90-day mark, especially for me as I deliver content daily to the web, this is an easy kind of, easier for me at least, construct and time box to sit by because I'm delivering 5 days a week, every week, up to 90 days. Okay? The first outcome is I absolutely despise what I'm doing. Now, that's not, it sounds negative, but let's read between the lines. Is that within this 90 days, I completely understand the good and the bad of this experiment. I understand what I enjoy about this new hustle, this new project. I figure out what I dislike, like more than dislike. I despise parts of this. And obviously, these are opportunities for me to pivot, to change my workflow, to change my message, to tweak what I'm doing so that it can be more enjoyable. But secondly, and this is the most important, I learn how valuable this time box really is. Not only in a 90-day experiment do I learn that I absolutely despise certain parts of this experiment, but I finally, number two, begin to really appreciate the value of that discipline of not quitting, of not stopping, of continuing to move forward. And yeah, within those 90 days, you'll have some wins, you'll have some highs, you'll also have some lows. You have some days when nobody shows up, right? But you have to be your own motivation here. You have to be your own inspiration here. Use the law of attraction. We've talked about that in previous podcasts. Go back and search for it. The law of attraction, or Peter's law of attraction. It's simply, I'll give you the TLDR, the short version right here. It's simply this. Focus on your goals and view the world through the lens of those goals. If you view the world through the lens of those goals, you will be able to see opportunities to engage, to see, engage, and leverage those individuals and situations and things around you that can help you add one more building block to your goal. Does that make sense? And so starve out your distractions. Starve your distractions. Feed your focus, especially in this crucial time when you have an audience of zero. You see, I know that when it comes to beginning anything, there can be so many different fears, different anxieties. And the reason is we're thinking way too much into the future. I can completely admit to the fact that I struggle with this in many different situations. I've struggled with this in many different situations, and I still struggle with this today. I can admit even today, after I had my gym workout, I thought about all the things that I needed to do today. I thought about the individuals that I needed to drive down to downtown Atlanta to see and engage with and talk with. I had these other follow-ups that I had to do with email, with getting some car and some track and some racing stuff ready. There's just so much to do, and it began to boil up in my stomach and made me think about all this stuff that's in the future, and it made me anxious. And so I reminded myself, especially as I was driving home from my workout, I reminded myself to be present, to allow the world to be exactly how it is. The future doesn't exist just yet. It doesn't exist because the present is always the present. And so when you have this audience of zero, when you are starting out, gird yourself, prepare yourself for those trials, those tribulations. I can't tell you how many people I have met who have quit on day 30 or quit on day 40 or quit on day 50 or quit on day 60. You're almost there. Be a man of your word. Be a woman of your word. If you have the goal and you've set out the time box of when you want to execute this experiment, so you can execute to learn. You can learn as fast as possible through this experimentation, not quitting, staying disciplined. You will win in life. You will win as you move towards your goals. And yet, let's be intellectually honest, you might not even like what you're doing at the end of the experiment. That's okay. You might not even like it, but you've learned enough to know that this is something that you don't want to do. I find it fascinating how many people talk about what they want to do, what they don't want to do, and I often will sometimes, given the right context and right opportunity, I'll say, well, have you ever done that for very long before? And they'll often say no. Then I'll say to them simply, well, how the hell do you know? How do you know whether that's something that you really can do? How do you know whether that's something that you're capable? How do you know if that's something that through the act of executing on it and learning about it, that you will actually emergently find facets of this new project that you really, really, really enjoy? You see, your first conception, your first idea around a project or a new side hustle or a new grind or a new career, or a new job, is that you have all these assumptions, all these perceptions and assumptions around what you think it's supposed to be. You have all these assumptions around what you feel, what you're supposed to feel after getting all of these. And these are all internal, and they move so quickly through your brain. But at the end of the day, we know very little about the trueness of anything until we really do it. I remember talking with my son, for one example, talking about how there was some well, let's just put it. I don't want to go too deep here, but we were talking simply about how he might not like this upgraded motor. It's an LO206 motor from a two-stroke engine to a four-stroke engine, and he was wondering about, hey, maybe I'm not ready for this new engine. And I said, well, have you ever driven a four-stroke? And his simple answer was no. And my answer to him was simply, well, then let's try it. Let's try it. You've already maxed out your ability on the two-stroke engine. You've been slamming the accelerator all the way down, and you've pretty much bled everything that you can out of this two-stroke engine. And he was a little anxious about upgrading to this new engine. He was a little nervous about it because, and I can understand maybe at his age, he's just thinking, well, it's change. It's new. It's something I've never experienced. And yeah, I'm not going as fast as I want to go in this go-kart. But you know what? I'd rather be in what is known than an opportunity to challenge myself and grow. Now, maybe I'm digging too deeply into this, and maybe I'm just an overreaching father who's speaking too much into my son's enjoyment of his go-karting life. But this was a real opportunity for him to listen to me and say, let's try it. Let's not make assumptions about what the outcome is going to be, what the feelings are going to be, what the experience is going to be. All we know is that you're at a level of comfort right now, and we want to continue this journey. We want to continue moving towards the greater goal of being a better race car driver, better go-kart driver, better whatever. Maybe it's just going to be a hobby. That's fine. But let's continue pushing forward. Right now, for example, in my son's karting life, he really has an audience of like 5. It's just him and the family, really, maybe even less, an audience of 3, right? But he doesn't worry about that. He's enjoying the process, and he's certainly not going to quit because he has his eyes on the goal of being a great race car driver, maybe even a formula driver. And so let's get back to the beginning of all this. I went all over the place in today's little podcast of sorts, an audience of 0. Just remember, whenever you're beginning anything, you're going to have an audience of 0. Your goals don't care about your feelings. Starve those distractions. Feed your focus. That focus is going to drive you to continue to persevere when you have an audience of 0, when you have an audience of 1 or 2 or 5, and it feels depressing that no one's taking on what your interests are. Let's just be quickly reminded. No one's thinking about you anyway, which is why it's important to remember, and I told this to my friend, you attract people based on the value you bring. So with your audience of 0, how are you considering, how are you thinking about the value that you bring to the world so that people are willing to listen to you, number one? And secondly, if possible, they might even be willing to pay you for your services or pay you for the value that you bring. But you have to, and don't forget this, you have to make sure that you connect have them be able to connect to you through the feeling of that message, right? So if you're stuck, if you're listening to this podcast right now and you're stuck and no one is listening to you, let me ask you 3 questions. Number 1, how long have you persevered on this endeavor? How long have you gone? How long has the experiment been? Has it been 2 weeks? Not enough time. Been a month? Not enough time. Been 2 months? Not enough time, in my opinion. 3 months? Maybe. 4 months? Now we might be cooking with fire. So the first question is, how long have you been persevering on this? And has it been long enough for you to extract lessons? Are you learning? Are you learning about what your market likes, dislikes? Are you learning about your message? Are you becoming a better communicator? Right? So number 1, how long you've been persevering on this? Number 2, don't quit. Don't quit. You don't know yet what the outcome could be. You don't know yet who you can meet, right? So don't quit. And number 3, are you using the law of attraction? Are you looking around the world and having your goals become the filter for your world? Are you constantly seeing, engaging, and leveraging those around you and situations around you so that you can add building blocks to your hustle? I often find, and I'll end with this, I often find that people, and I think this is just the nature of the beast. I don't want to sound negative here, but I think this is just the reality, is that most people don't ever spend enough time getting to a point where they really can master what they're trying to do. I mean, let's be honest. No one's going to pay you when you're a novice. No one's going to pay you for your services when you're mediocre. They're only going to pay you when you have some semblance of mastery. And it's at the mastery level that your value, the quality of your work, the quality of all the effort that you've put into it is really at a point where people are willing to pay. And so don't be deceived here and don't miss my message. My message is, when you have an audience of 0, your goal now is to focus on how long of a time box do you need to create to persevere on this so you can gain some semblance of mastery, so you can get feedback, so you can improve, pivot, change your messaging, change your strategy, change your tactics so that people feel a connection to your message and they are more attracted to you because you provide even more value. Simply put, in a simple equation, the more mastery you have over a subject or an idea, the more value you create. Let me say that again. The more mastery that you have over something, which mastery can only be gained through time and experience and improvement in that area, the more mastery you have, the more value you create, the more opportunities for people to feel connected to your message, number one, and number two, be willing to pay for said services. Are you iterating enough? Are you pivoting enough? Are you changing your messaging enough? Are you experimenting enough? If you're not doing any of that, it's hard to have any excuse around why you're not improving. I have found in my short life that those who simply don't quit and continue to inspect and adapt and improve that which they are doing will tend to get to a higher level of mastery faster. And these individuals will start getting paid faster. So let me ask you, where's your audience? Do you have an audience of zero? How long have you been persevering? Is it time for you to inspect and adapt and see new ways to improve your message, to improve your hustle? Let me know in the comments, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with me in today's podcast, guys. If you enjoyed it, smash the like button, subscribe, and let other people know. Let other people know about this. On a small side note, guys, I'm going to probably, and maybe not a lot of you hear this, but I'll probably be moving a lot of these talks to behind the scenes on my yen.io group in the near future. And so we're going to be pivoting this YouTube channel. We're going to be pivoting a lot of what we're doing here. So stay tuned and stay frosty, guys. See ya.